Folks, the Bucs culture is just different in 2025, in my opinion. And I feel like this is something we may have never seen from the Buccaneers organization in its entire history as a franchise. But what do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about it. Shout out to Sleeper, by the way. More on them a little bit later on in this video. I want to take you guys back through each game of the Bucs regular season so far this year and talk about the circumstances the Bucs found them in towards the end of the game and how those games actually ended. So, late in the fourth quarter, the Buccaneers found themselves down 20-17 versus the Atlanta Falcons with a little over 2 minutes left in the game. The Buccaneers had to march down the field and try to win the football game, or at minimum tie it up. Well, what happened? It took 1 minute, 18 seconds, a 5-play, 63-yard drive, and with 59 seconds left in the fourth quarter, the Buccaneers score the go-ahead touchdown. Now, they would get a little bit of help later on at the end of the game with a Younghoe Koo missed field goal, but at the end of the day, the Buccaneers did get the win versus the Atlanta Falcons after being down with a little bit over 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Then, next week, versus the Houston Texans, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers find themselves in a scenario with a little bit over 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They are down 19-14 against the Houston Texans. What happens? Well, an 11-play, 80-yard drive that eats up 2 minutes and 4 seconds happens, and with 6 seconds left on the clock, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers score the go-ahead touchdown and end up winning the game 20-19. What happens the following week versus the New York Jets? Well, things got a little bit dicey at certain points of the game, and with a little over 3 minutes left in the game, the New York Jets blocked a kick that would result in a touchdown, a go-ahead touchdown for them. They would be up 27-26. And with only a minute 49 seconds left on the clock, the Buccaneers needed to march down the field and either A, kick a game-winning field goal, or B, kick or score a game-winning touchdown. And what happened? Well, they went on a 7-play, 48-yard drive with a minute 49 seconds on the clock and kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired. Then, versus the Philadelphia Eagles, where did the Buccaneers find themselves? Well, I will say, at the end of the first half, the Buccaneers found themselves down 24-3 at one point. But at the end of the first half, Chase McLaughlin kicks a 65-yard field goal, the second longest field goal in NFL history, the longest field goal in an outside stadium in NFL history. What happens after that? Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers storm back, making it a 31-23 game with about 12 minutes and 16 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Now, they did not end up winning this game. They would lose by a final score of 31-25, but they came back literally down 24-6 at the end of the first half and outscored their opponents and almost made the comeback. Then finally, versus the Seattle Seahawks, the game that just recently happened for the Bucs, what happened? Well, they found themselves in a scenario where the game was tied 35-35. In fact, there was one point they were down 35-28 in this game with 3 minutes and 18 seconds left on the clock, everybody. That is how much down they were. Then what happened? Well, a 5-play, 70-yard drive with 2 minutes and 10 seconds taken off the clock with a minute 8 seconds left in the game. The Bucs score a touchdown of their own, tying up the ball game. Then what happens? Well, 2 plays into Seattle's next drive with a little over a minute left in the game, Sam Darnold throws an interception. The Buccaneers run 5 plays for 14 yards, taking the final 53 seconds left off the clock and kick the game-winning field goal as time expires. What am I saying with all of this? Well, before we dive deeper into that, I do want to say shout out to Sleeper, the proud sponsor of this channel. If you guys do use the code MrBucs, you will get a $100 deposit match up to $100. Also, whenever you guys sign up, you get $20 for free. That is just free right there, everybody. Just for signing up, no deposit needed. So, guys, make sure you go sign up for Sleeper today and enjoy football the way it was meant to be. That is together. Now, all of of these game situations I just explained to you, right? They are all going down to the wire. In fact, the point differential for the Buccaneers this year is just +3. They're only scoring 3 more points than their opponents so far to this point this year. But what we are seeing in these scenarios is the Bucs have no quit. Period. They have no quit in this organization. When the chips are down and they are down in football games, they are going to come back and win. They have proven this week after week after week after week after week. Literally 5 weeks in a row. This is a team that has stormed back, came back from adversity, and have more times than not, 4 times more than not, won these football games when in a lot of other situations and a lot of other football teams you would say this team's probably going to lose. The Bucs are coming back and they are winning, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do in one game in the NFL, let alone 5 games in a row in the NFL. And I know that some people can also criticize this, right? And say, well, why aren't they playing as a complete football team? And you do see other organizations that are going out there having these complete wins, like the Detroit Lions, maybe like the Buffalo Bills, and all these different types of things, right? But look, at the end of the day, wins are wins. And it is a good thing to know that you can never count your football team out. Never count your football team out. And as I said, this is something that has been so rare in the Buccaneers organization. So many times in this franchise's history, we've seen scenarios where, hey, they're down, they may try and come back a little bit, and they may even get very close to coming back, but then some type of mistake happens and they lose the football game, right? Not the case this year. And we did see some of this during even the Brady era with the Bucs, but I would also argue that that was a team that was more, hey, we are just going to have very solid. They did have handfuls of come from behind victories, but not to this magnitude, right? Not to this magnitude. And some people also may view it negatively and say, well, the Bucs could easily be 0-5. Right? But it's a very similar argument to what people said about the Chiefs last year, and the Chiefs made the freaking Super Bowl. So, I mean, this is a scenario where despite adversity, despite circumstances that are unfavorable, they are finding ways to win football games. And that is the hallmark of a good team. Good teams find ways to win games. Bad teams find ways to lose games. That is how it has always been described to me. I'm sure it's always been described that way to you folks as well, is that good teams find ways to win games. And the Bucs are a good team because they are finding ways to win football games. And just the overall culture and swagger and attitude of this Buccaneers roster is so different, in my opinion, even from the couple Baker years last year, where you did feel that swagger, you did feel that kind of vibe, but not to this level, not to this lethality of you never know in terms of when this Bucs team is going to storm back and surge back and catch a team lacking and get that win, right? It's ice in the veins type of mentality, in my opinion, right? And even with the first couple years of Baker, we didn't see that as much. We saw glimpses of it and moments of it, but this year, this whole team is exuding that mentality and that culture, whereas I feel like the past couple of years, you did have a few guys like that. Obviously, Baker being the quarterback that he is, he has that mentality basically constantly, but we are seeing the entire team exude and breathe and live that culture this year, right? With so many different guys stepping up, with Emeka Egbuka, Levante David having the interception last week. It's just different guys here and there making different plays, from reliable veterans on offense like Sterling Shepard and some of the other guys, to the offensive line backups having to step up and help win football games, to defensive guys having to step up and make certain plays. Like even Jamel Dean is getting involved with a pick six a couple of weeks ago. Like, these are all just the different things. Chase McLaughlin getting involved as well, kicking multiple game winners this year. These are just all different pieces of this puzzle that are combining and connecting and resulting in winning football. And there is, obviously the conversation of like, well, they're not playing as a complete football team all the time and they're not dominating these games, right? But I think that it was said best after this Seahawks game where Baker said, look, we're playing complementary football. And that's basically what it is. Where, look, Sometimes the offense will make the right plays. Sometimes the defense will make the right plays. Sometimes the Chase McLaughlin having to go out there and kick another game winner. All of these circumstances are not easy things to do in the first place, but let alone replicate. And the Bucs are replicating it week after week after week. And I just wanted to make a note of that. I wanted to talk about this culture because it does feel so different this year than what we've seen in years past. And it's funny, I was talking to my dad about it, and he had said, like, hey, you know, they're the cardiac kids, right? Because it's giving us all heart palpitations watching all of these games. And that is such a good way to put it, right? But at the end of the day, they are winning. They are winning football games. That's what matters most at the end of the day. And they're doing it pretty darn well. 3-0 away, by the way, for these football games. And they're still going out there and winning in the hardest of circumstances, winning when the chips are down. They're going all in, and they're winning in these moments. And that's a cultural shift, and that's a positive cultural shift at that. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions about it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. As always, guys, I will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.